Okay, Kosta, good
Right.
to see you, man.
Thank you for having me.
Cool. So we've got Kosta Michael here. Kosta, what year were you captain of St. David's?
2015.
2015. Okay, so Costa played centre back and was captain of the first side and played first team football pretty much regularly from grade 10. And in 2014, I think we won our first tournament kind of together. And then 2015, that was St. Peter's. And then 2015, we won St. David's and Grey.
Yes,
Is that right?
The double.
the double. And then when Costa left, we won the double again. But Costa, good to have you. The thing I enjoyed about you as a player was kind of your physical presence, but I think you like to call yourself Giroud because of that very similar skill set. And I think we did move you up to striker a couple of when we were in dire straits and we needed a physical presence up front. But Costa, maybe you can just speak to your time at St. David's and St. David's football and
100%. So I came to St. David's late. I only arrived in grade 9. And the motivating factor behind me coming to St. David's was to join the football team. St. David's has an excellent reputation in terms of school football and just giving their kids exposure to play. Really cool tournaments. It's quite a prolonged football season as well. So that's really why I chose to come to St. David's. But yeah, a lot of my best memories growing up were definitely playing football for St. David's and playing other sports for St. David's. But we really excelled on the football pitch more so than anywhere else. So yeah, I took immense pride in the fact that we were able to win some tournaments and just play some football that people somewhat remembered us by. I was really fortunate as well to come into teams where we had players that were really gifted all around the pitch, but we were really lucky in the regard that we always had an epic goalkeeper and some pretty good midfielders.
Yeah, actually, when I was kind of looking for kind of old boys to connect with, and I was like sending feelers out, I realized that like I'd send messages to 5 like out of this world goalkeepers. That just like when you've got that, it just makes things so much easier. Like they're winning games for you from the back.
100%. There's a reason why Rafa Benitez sets up his formations with a 1 at the start. But yeah, like we had Tristan Geach and Spider-Man and Adair, who are just epic shot stoppers, but they're also really vocal, which helps as a center back.
Costa, my battery's just running flat. Just let me plug in. Hold on. Go. Yeah, and actually, I wanted to talk to Adair about this, but maybe I'll kind of lead a teaser into you. Is that I certainly felt when Adair arrived and started coming to practices, he kind of lifted the quality of our strikers, because in training, they would we'd go through like some kind of drill, like a shooting drill or whatever, and they'd shoot and they would be like, goal. And then Adair would pull out this crazy save and they were like, what is going on here? How is this like possible? And like for them to score a goal in training had to be like something special. And then I felt that really carried us into games, which was, yeah.
Totally,
cool.
Totally. I think it's all about precedent as well. So obviously the way you train is how you're going to go out and perform when you're under pressure, but having someone like Adair spurring people on is definitely what you want and what you need.
Costa, You played a bit of club football in school. Maybe you can just speak about how you balanced academics, other sports, club football, social life,
That,
all of.
that's a very, very great question and a very valid, I think, starting point to any discussion when you're speaking about school sport in particular, but just going forward and your future aspirations and the opportunities that will lie ahead of you eventually once you do leave school. Um, I did play club football, so I played club football from when I was 6 until right up until grade 11, and at that time I was playing for a club called Black Aces. I was playing for their under 17 team, so it was quite difficult to balance your school sport, which in my day, I don't know if it still applies, took precedent. So I would be playing basketball or rugby or football and then be shipped off to club football training like an hour and a half later. And with that being said, club football training was at that stage 4 times a week. So it was quite a full-on commitment, and it was quite tough to also finish your St. David's sporting commitment on the weekend and then pitch up to a game. Um, and as a result, quite honestly, my academics did suffer to a certain extent. It does help having great maths teachers such as yourself. But I think the most relevant approach to this is to really be fair on yourself and to give yourself the best shot in every aspect. The best shot in terms of your football. So stay committed, stay on top of it, look after yourself. But then on the academic front, just acknowledge that you have to put a certain amount of hours in, and yeah, be true to yourself. Reflect on whether you've spent those hours productively or not, and whether you are where you want to be going into exams, which are like a match, ultimately high pressure.
Sweet. Costa, let's maybe jump into some technical stuff. I know you're quite excited about like kind of giving some strong tips.
I love it. I feel like I'm a pundit here.
Yeah.
Match day live.
Maybe you want to talk about the centre back as a sweeper. Well, I'll let you run with what you want to run with, and you let me know when you need the tactical pad and whatever.
100%. So the role of the sweeper within the defensive unit is really, really important from the perspective of a centre back. You do get teams which nominate that to one player only. The Italians had Cannavaro when they won the World Cup, and he did an excellent job. But I really think that it can be a role that is shared between the two centre backs. And it's really important because it adds another line of defense before any attacking team gets to the goalkeeper. So having the awareness and the positioning to identify that space and be able to cover it is really important in being able to give your team a chance to win the game.
So, I mean, now that you say, I know that you and Josh Wingate had quite a good understanding. And I seem to remember that you also kind of, you had like competitions about number of headers and that kind of thing. So what you're saying is like when the ball goes up in the air or something, let's say it's a goal kick or something, and it comes straight through to you, and the number 5 goes to header it, then that sweeper role is then the other centre back then dropping off behind. And as you say, then you're giving yourself an extra line of defense. Maybe the number 9 wins a flick on, then it's straight to you. Maybe Josh didn't get a good connection, straight to you. Maybe 100%. The number 9.
Yeah. And look, like we were quite fortunate in that we had Brandon Leach, who was an absolute monster playing CDM. He won like every header. That was his personal duel every single game. And even with that, positioning relative to the center mid going up, so you both can't be flat. Someone needs to drop slightly off. to just ensure that there is
Cool.
no one.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then, yeah, I think that's very, very important, is to have some depth when the ball's in kind of an in-between like area, is to like up in the air or in transition. You want to have a bit of staggering in your defense.
100%.
And the next, it's actually a perfect, then it leads on naturally, is then the next thing you wanted to talk about is an arc, a defensive arc with the unit.
Most definitely, yeah. So using the analogy of like a ship, and your defensive unit is really just this dynamic ship that always needs to create this arc in order to protect itself from the waves and stuff. That is.
Okay, so but what do you mean by that? I've drawn a little.
Yeah, so like you've drawn on screen there, the most, I think, important thing for a center back is having confidence in that your fullbacks are always ahead of you. I'm a firm believer in that. In the scenario on screen here, the center backs are ultimately the ones who are going to make a decision as to whether they need to commit to a tackle or commit to pressing the ball or commit to really just bringing the defensive line up. But they can't do that without knowing that their fullbacks are behind them, because if they are, then they just leave the offside line behind them too. So the most important thing from maintaining the arc's perspective is that the fullbacks are always ahead of the center backs. But then if let's say we run the ball to number 7. So like I said, it's a dynamic arc. So number 2 would be inclined to press the ball. Number 4, our first center back would have to cover the fullback. But then this is where the relevance of the sweeper comes in. The number 5 would have to cover the number 4 as well. And the importance of the left back, the number 3, being, just in front of, in line with the center back, means that if the ball gets played into number 9 or in behind, like if number 9's running in behind, number 5 can step up and call the offside line.
Yeah. Okay, I see.
But so the reason why the arc is so imperative is, like you said, staggering the defense, creating as many lines, horizontal lines across the field as you can to try and screen and block off passes and stuff.
Excellent. Yeah, I think that's really important, as you say. So just to recap, it's so important that the number 2 and the left back and the right back are in front of the 4 and 5, so that when these two as a unit or one of them decides to step up, they know they're stepping up into an offside side position. The 3 is, or the right back, let's say it's on the left and the right back feels like he doesn't want to get caught with this number 11, so he drops off a bit. The danger there is not for his side, but for the other side, that then the number 7 can then bring himself in behind there and he can get on side. And so that is really the danger of that guy dropping off there. Excellent. Okay, cool. Then you wanted to talk about the goalie and getting information from the back.
Yeah, so I think having a good goalkeeper is obviously a trait of every great team. But just having someone constantly remind you where the strikers are, if you guys are not in line, how much space there is between where the goalkeeper is and where you are as a defensive unit. And I think most importantly, who's lurking in behind you. I mean, if we put the ball out into a wider area, on screen, there could be players running in behind between the 5 and 3, so to speak. Yeah, that number 11. And having a good goalkeeper and having someone let you know that there's someone over your shoulder always enables you to position yourself relative to the ball and the attacker, which is really, really important. It's not really just about occupying a space and being where center back should be. It's about being close enough to get in the way.
So, I mean, this is actually these kind of runs that you're speaking about is exactly what Julian De Freitas spoke about, saying that you want to be out of the eye line of the defender. And so you've kind of answered him in saying, like, well, he will be out of your eye line, but it's the job of the goalkeeper to let you know, hey, this guy's making a run like behind you, and just be aware of that.
100%. And if we can go slightly further, the point about the sweeper. So if the ball's at number 7 and we can move our number 5 slightly further back to cover the number 4 a bit more, as soon as you get a shout from your fullback or from the goalkeeper that someone's running in behind you as the number 4, the number 5 can make that conscious decision to either follow him or to step up.
I like that. Yeah.
And on that note, playing an offside line can be a very dangerous game. I think the boys should also just understand the objective and why you would want to place your defense higher up the field. And that would be rooted in the gap between your defensive unit and the midfielders as well. Because as soon as you guys are playing too deep, you're making your midfielders cover double the ground, really, to try and win balls back and to try and get the ball off the opposition. So the offside line is quite tricky to call and to get refereed correctly, especially in a school game. But it's a very effective tool when you can do it properly.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, as you say, at the best, like let's say at Grey, they've got quite a big budget and they've got these referees and whatever and linesmen. They still get it wrong all the time. I'm not sure if maybe it was the year after you left, but in the final of St. Peter's, we were playing. It must have been after you left. We were playing a team, Cliptown, and Lee Mendes scored a goal, and it was disallowed for offside. And at halftime, the ref came to me and said, "Yeah, this linesman doesn't know the offside rule." I mean, that's just shows you how frustrating
it is what it is. Yeah, you can't rely on anyone else.
But I do actually, while we're talking about offside lines and whatever, I think Norcom have an excellent offside trap, which let's say there's a free kick, then you usually get a few more guys back and the opposition normally push a few forward. They'll have a few attacking. And what they do is when they're setting up, most teams like to set up with a solid line. I know Mr. Page is really, he kind of says edge of the box, which I agree with. So they set up most teams set up their line something like that. Norcom, when they're playing their offside trap, they will have one guy. They'll have a number 2 that stands back there. Now, when attacking teams see that, they then say, okay, well, then we all going to line up on the last man over here. And then while the number 7 is then running in to take the shot, then only the number 2 then steps up, and then they've got that offside trap. So normally an offside trap would be everyone dropping back and then stepping up together. But it's actually far easier if you just have one that maybe it's more central that then steps up. So teams think they're being really clever by going onto that last man. But then, of course, it just needs one man to step up there.
Yeah, that speaks to the role of the sweeper. It can be anyone, really.
Exactly. It can be anyone. Okay. The next thing you wanted to speak about, which, I mean, this is very important, is the central defenders staying central.
Yeah, so we can recreate a scenario here, but as a center back, you really don't want to be drawn in positions out wide, especially if you're not the quickest like I was, or not. Yeah, you really don't want to get caught out wide where you really need to be is in the box, in the center forward space, really just making a nuisance of yourself. So if the ball gets played by the number 7 down the line, so to speak, and the number
Yeah.
10 runs onto it. Oh yeah, number 7's there. That's
Oh,
great.
yeah. Okay.
As a number 4, you don't want to be caught in those positions out wide. You almost want either your number 8 to, ideally you'd want your number 8 to get across and deal with it, or you'd want your fullback to recover and gain up that space. But I think as soon as you start dragging yourself out wide into positions that are really compromising the integrity of the heart of your defense, you're going to leave yourself vulnerable. There's just too much ground to cover in the box itself.
Kosta, how wide is too wide? Edge of the box, or
yeah, I'd say edge of the box is good. Ideally, you'd want your holding midfielder to get out and deal with the ball. I'm not saying let people put crosses in. I think at all costs, any type of cross should be dealt with at the source. But I definitely think that as a lot of teams would play with 1 or 2 holding midfielders at the very least, and I think part of their responsibility is to get out and cover those wider positions. So yeah, like edge of the box would be as wide as you'd want to be as a center back.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, let's just leave it there. I think it's so simple. Like the thing I always say is that goals are scored from in front of the goals, not from. You're not going to score a goal from out wide on the byline.
100%.
You've got to put it in for the goal to actually be scored, and so the danger is in front of your goals.
Totally.
Then next, you wanted to speak about your positioning, the positioning of the centre back relative to the ball.
Yeah, I think that is probably the biggest trick on playing center back, and having your body shape relative to the ball correct, so that you're not either square on with the ball or flat-footed. So I think obviously I'll speak towards the 2 golden rules now and then elaborate on them, if I may. But the golden rule obviously is to show the attacker away from your goal. So that, as a defender, is in the back of your mind when you are approaching a situation where the ball's coming towards you or you are attacking the ball. You need to set up your body so that you're showing the attackers away from goal. You're showing yourself to be able to turn on the spin quite easily, to be able to also look over your shoulder and cover anything that's coming from behind you. It's quite tough to elaborate on this without a real run through here, but the ball and you should be. I'm bumming out here. So if I'm approaching the ball and the goals are behind me, I do not want to come at it straight up. I do not want to come at it completely square. I want to come at it slightly angled, so that if the ball gets played down the line or in behind, I'm able to turn quite quickly. I think that's definitely one of the hardest parts about playing center back, because you are constantly having to adjust your angle between you and the ball and you and your own goals. So there's essentially 2 anchors that you always need to be aware of and adjust yourself accordingly. It's you and the ball and you and your own goal, and making sure that you're not going to get caught out by one simple pass in behind.
Yeah, cool. No, I think you made yourself clear. The one thing I'll like ask you is like, okay, you said that we want to get side on and kind of show the defender like inside me here. What happens if he's like really tricky and he finds a way to like kind of put you like down this side in there? What do you think about that?
So I'm quite strong on you've always got to know where your opposition wants to go. So what their strong foot is, where they are going to be the biggest threat to your goal. If you do find yourself in a situation where you are being turned in towards your own goal, you always need to consider what your options are. Like, are you going to be able to close the gap by making a challenge? If you're going to make a challenge and you're going to go to ground, you're essentially out of the game. So it's either you win the ball or they're going to run in behind. But I think, definitely the most important thing is having your body angled so you are able to turn quickly and almost retreat back towards goal.
Makes sense. And then you said you wanted to speak about when someone else is trying to make a tackle or they go in, and your position relative to them. Let's maybe say the 9 has it. The number 5 wants to come in and make a tackle, and you the number 4. Where you going there?
So if I'm the number 4 and the number 9 is on my right here, you are going to want to completely turn your body so that you aren't standing flat-footed, in that if the number 9 flicks it around the number 5 like a Dennis Bergkamp flick and is running in behind goal, you still have to make that turn. You need to definitely be able to preempt any movement that eliminates number 5 from the game altogether. So you would definitely be facing where the number 9 would be coming from.
Okay. All right.
So
Yeah.
I'm also going to run out of battery.
Don't worry. I think we've almost got through all your points. Your last kind of one on your agenda was the golden rules of defending.
Totally. So, like I said, going to ground is your last option. Once you make a slide tackle, you're completely out of the game. If you miss the ball, attackers are in behind. And the other golden rule is definitely, like I said, but this spoke more towards positioning, was showing everyone away from goal. So, like I said, you don't want to be drawn out towards a wider position where attackers are going to try skin you as a center back, but you need to know to show them to the byline and to show them out, as opposed to giving them a chance to cut in. And some attackers play on the opposite wing to their strong foot, so that's what they're dying for. They're dying for you to commit. They're dying for you to buy into a dummy and to get yourself cut out of the game. With that being said, I think another really important part of defending is knowing your strengths. So unless you're like a Rafael Varane, who is quite quick and can cover his tracks, I know that there are a lot of other defenders like that. Virgil van Dijk is also really quick. But unless you've got that speed to really just cover yourself, you need to be able to give attackers some space sometimes and see what their first touch is going to do. Is their first touch away from goal, or is their first touch directly towards goal? Because you don't want to commit on a touch that is taking attackers into a space that is not a threat, and then you're out of the game, so to speak. So I think a big part of defending as well is knowing your strong suits and playing towards them.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Kosta. We'll keep you updated with the websites, and we certainly value your input anytime. And we look forward to having you on campus when when these things allow.
That'd be right. Thank you for having me. It's just awesome. It's awesome to speak about something you're passionate about.
Sure. Yeah, Kosta, and be safe, and we'll see you soon.
Take it easy. Yeah, 100%.